Hello, I'm here to talk about the August 30th primary election in Florida. We're going to be voting for some important positions. I know everyone's got the buzz on the presidential election, which is important, but there's other things that are important too. So I'm here just to talk about that. I'm just going to tell you that I'm only giving you my opinion. Everyone's invited, of course, to do their own research, but I just kind of wanted to show my opinions and show you that the process really isn't as hard as make it out to be. First, I will start by showing you a sample ballot. This is a sample ballot. It looks just like a regular ballot, but remember, you can't actually photograph or film your ballot. That violates Florida law, so don't do that when you're at the polls. This sample ballot looks like a regular ballot, except it says sample. Now, my ballot is going to look different than yours because I am registered in a Democratic Party, and it's also based on where you live as to what elections and candidates you can vote for. So if you're registered in the Republican Party, you're only going to see Republican candidates on the partisan issues. If you're registered no party affiliated or a third party, you'll only see nonpartisan positions on your ballot. So that's why it may look different. But we'll go over that more in detail. It's all dependent on where you live and all of that. The first thing you want to do in order to access your sample ballot, what you want to do before Election Day to give yourself time to do the research, go to votehillsboro.org, and that's where you're going to access this. You can also go on here to get your voter by mail information, early voting information, where to go for Election Day, how to check your registration status, and how to access your sample ballot. Sample ballot is accessed through this page here after you click on My Sample Ballot. You then go here and enter your credentials. So you enter your last name, your birth date, and the digits in your house number. So if you live at 101 Central Avenue, you would just enter 101. I'm going to enter mine, and then I will show you the rest. Okay, after you enter it, it will then take you to this page here regarding the upcoming election. As you see, we're talking about the 2016 primary election. That is the only sample ballot available. It is not available for the general election yet. So you're going to click right there where it says sample ballot. Once you do that, the screen will pop up showing exactly what I showed you before. The sample ballot that's applicable based on your voter registration. So that's this. I'm really bad at this cameraing thing. So yours will look different based on where in Hillsborough County you live and what party you're registered in. Like you see there, it says my precinct and ballot style. So that's applicable for that. Anyway, I'm going to go on and talk about the actual candidates on the ballot. This is again for the August 30th ballot. So you'll have the opportunity to make these decisions at the polls on August 30th, or you can do vote by mail, which you can do on that website I just showed you by going to the vote by mail section. It really depends on what your comfort level is. On this website too, you can also see where you need to go to vote if you do not vote by mail. It's important to know, where you're going to vote. All right. The first section that appears on the ballot is going to be a statewide election. Everybody in the state of Florida will be able to vote for these candidates if they're in the Democratic Party. If you're in the Republican Party, your options will be different. If you are no party affiliated, you will not have these options. This is for the primary. You'll have the options on the general election. So since I'm a Democrat by registration, the United States Senator is a position that's in federal office representing the state of Florida in Washington, D.C. So it's very important that you choose wisely because this person will have influence over policy that's going to affect you as well as the rest of the nation. And they are quite influential. I've already decided my candidate long ago, and that's Pam Keith. That's why she's bubbled in. If you've followed my Facebook at all, you know that I've talked about Pam Keith before. I've shared a lot of her videos and her position statements. Rocky De La Fuente, I'm sorry, I'm saying that totally wrong. I've never heard of him, and I've never heard of Reginald Lustard either. But since I've already decided on a candidate, I didn't decide to research them, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't. You should definitely do research on everybody that you feel is appropriate. Alan Grayson I've seen on 2 occasions in the community. He was at St. Pete Pride, or Tampa Pride, actually, pardon me. He was at Tampa Pride, And he was at a Black Lives Matter rally recently where Black Lives Matter Tampa endorsed him. And that's great, but I listened to him speak, and Alan Grayson is currently a congressman who is wanting to become a senator. He's not my flavor. He's not someone I really support, not someone that I highly trust. Patrick Murphy is also a U.S. representative that's wanting to become a senator. So if political experience is a key value to you, one of those options are very viable because they both have experience. I believe Patrick Murphy is the one they keep saying is the reformed Republican, so he was a Republican that turned Democrat. Don't quote me. Pam Keith is the underdog in this situation because she has no political experience, and it does seem like quite a stretch to go straight to the U.S. Senate, but you know what? Dream big. She is the underdog, but you can find information about her at PamKeithForSenate2016.com and see her position statements. I went to Pam Keith in Lakeland to watch her speak, and I was very impressed with what I saw, and I shared that live video. She also appeared, unfortunately, uninvited at a Black Lives Matter rally, which did not work well for the Black Lives Matter organizer. Didn't really appreciate her making an unannounced visit, and I don't blame her. I support the candidate, not necessarily everything that they do, but again, she doesn't have the experience that Alan Grayson has, so she hasn't been around these blocks before. She's an attorney that was for the Navy. She was a defense attorney. And as far as attorneys go, I tend to prefer defense attorneys. Nothing wrong with prosecutors, I guess, but defense attorneys tend to be more my flavor. She's very open about the needing and the change for police training, civilian community review boards. She's open about the need for better care of our veterans and economy. She really speaks to me as someone who will represent those in the lower class. She's not a career politician, and to me that's a plus. So take that for what it's worth. But yes, Pam Keith has my support for the U.S. Senate, and she will all the way through August 30th. If she doesn't win the election for the primary, then, I'll have to decide my choice. But you have to remember that whoever gets this Democratic spot will be going against Marco Rubio unless he loses the primary. For the Republican, which I'm not sure will happen. But Marco Rubio just did a very popular race here for the president's candidacy and didn't even win the state of Florida, so let that speak for him. But anyway, that's for the general election. I am voting under the State Senator District 19. Currently, my representative is Joyner, and she's been... Sorry, there's something popped up on my screen. She's been part of the Senate for a while now, and I guess she's moving on, from what I understand. So I was impressed to see Ed Narain as an option, because I didn't even really know before the sample ballot, which is why the sample ballots are important, that he was running for the state senator position, and he has my support. I've seen Ed Narain actually at a Black Lives Matter rally, and he was there speaking, and I think that he is a very good candidate. I think that he speaks for the citizens very well. He understands what we need and what we go through here in Florida and Hillsborough County, and I think he'll represent us very well in Tallahassee. For that reason, I didn't really research the other candidates, because once you've kind of decided, and again, that's just my take. You should definitely research them if you're not sure about Ed Narain. But you can learn about Ed on edforflorida.com. He has been a member of United Way. He's a USF graduate. He was a member of the Hillsborough County Children's Board, and he served as part of the Head Start Policy Council. He is actually currently a state representative for District 61, where he's done work for important causes like police reform, medical marijuana reform. He actually was talking about medical marijuana and accessibility as well as production. These are important things that are going to affect our economy if medical marijuana passes. He's also the chairman of the Florida Legislative Black Caucus, and his spouse is a teacher, and I emphasize that because I think that somebody who has a partner that's a teacher is going to be involved as far as how our educational system's going, and they're going to have more insight than someone who has never been a teacher or doesn't have a spouse that's a teacher. So a lot of his position statements that he references are someone who's an advocate for small business. That's important because small businesses are how our economy grows. Focusing on the pupil to prison pipeline. That's a huge issue here in Hillsborough County. If you have any friends who are teachers, they'll tell you about their frustrations in the disciplinary action options available for teachers. It's either not strong enough or it's too discriminatory. It's not working. So we need someone that's going to focus on that, but and do it in a way that's not going to oppress minority students. He's an advocate for affordable education. He wants to fight private prisons. That is so important. Florida has its prisons run by private corporations, and that just doesn't work. No, that's not a good thing. And he wants to press for Medicaid expansion, which is good for those who are in the lower socioeconomic class that can't afford insurance. And that includes people like me. So this will hopefully get more people insured. The next position that appears on my ballot is for state representative in District 59. Now again, if you're not in the same local area as me, you're going to have different representatives. There's two choices here, Raina Frazier and Nazi, and I'm really sorry, but I don't want to try to pronounce that name and butcher it, so I don't know that name. But RainaForFlorida.com is how you can learn about Raina Frazier, and I really liked what I had researched about her. She's a real estate attorney and a USF grad, so you know she's from around here, and she's currently a volunteer for the Bay Area Legal Services where she does pro bono work as an attorney. Her focus points are education, healthcare, and economy. All great focus points. I mean, you can't argue that. And her spouse is actually a small business owner, which is important because she's going to be an advocate for small businesses. Again, kind of the same thing I said about Edna Rain's spouse is applicable to her because she's going to understand the impact that policy has on small business. For Nazi, I hope I'm saying that right. What I liked about Nazi was that she's a teacher and a small business owner herself, so she has both of those credentials from first-hand experience. But I couldn't find much information about her, what her policies were, what her plans were. The only thing I found on her website even was how to donate to her, and that doesn't really set well for me. So my candidate of choice for a state representative in the primary is Raina, but I don't think I would have a huge problem voting for either when it comes down to the general election. The next position that shows available is for the clerk of the circuit court, which we have the incumbent Pat Frank versus current Hillsborough County Commissioner Kevin Beckner. I'm choosing Kevin Beckner just because I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the work he's done as a Hillsborough County Commissioner, and he's an LGBT advocate, but I'm not saying that because I'm against Pat Frank. I'm not going to be disappointed if either one wins, honestly, and I'm going to be dead honest. I don't know what the clerk of the circuit court does and how it really influences day-to-day policy, day-to-day life. Obviously it's important, but I couldn't tell you really what it does. I know I need to do more research into that, but Kevin Beckner has shown true colors as a county commissioner, and I'm quite impressed. He's an LGBT advocate and a big advocate for safety and nonviolence. So he's been out there, and he's someone that I feel I can trust. Which leads to the next position that's open is the Board of County Commissioners District 6, which is a county-wide position. We have 4 candidates available. We have John Dix, Pat Kemp, Thomas Scott, and Brian Willis. All of them seem like pretty viable candidates. John Dix was a former Plant City mayor. I'm going to be honest, I didn't know Plant City had mayors. And he is a lawyer and a businessman, so that's pretty typical. I mean, nothing too exciting. I didn't really find anything about John Dix that stood out that made me scream and want to vote for him. Pat Kemp, she's been around for a while. She's been an aide to Kathy Castor. She's an advocate for transportation, which is a huge issue for me that I want our commissions to deal with because our transportation system sucks. She says she wants to work on growth and good paying jobs. These are all good things, as well as making the most of our tax dollars and community resources. I think that she's really involved in our homeless community because she is part of the Tampa Crossroads, which is for homeless veterans as well as transitional careers. She was a founding member of the Seminole Heights Neighborhood Association, which is actually where I was raised. And she was a chair of the Democratic Party of Hillsborough County, so she's got leadership experience, and that's important. She supports things like the Tampa Ferry Project and again is big into the homeless thing. So I think Pat Kemp would be a good candidate based on what I've researched on her. Next we have Thomas Scott. He was endorsed by Edna Rain, so that's good. He said he's going to focus on safety, communities, opportunities, and transport. And of course, he says he's trustworthy, but who doesn't say that? I couldn't find out much about him. Now the candidate that I'm supporting is actually Brian Willis. Brian Willis stood out to me because he was the only county commissioner that actually put plan of action on his website. So where everyone else is telling you what they're going to stand for and a brief snippet, he actually put a full downloadable PDF on his plan on how to fix the transportation. And that's such an important issue. Those who are poor, those in minority classes here in Hillsborough County have difficulties getting around if they don't have a car. And that puts it difficult for them to get to school and work, which keeps them in poverty. So we need a more viable transportation system here. He has experience with that too because he was part of the Tampa Bay Area Regional Transit Authority Citizen Advisory Council, which is a lot to say. But he has some guiding principles on his plan to fix transport, which you can read the whole plan on his website, votebrianwillis.com. But some keynotes from that plan is he wants to support other modes of transportation other than roads. He feels Hillsborough County only focuses on roads. Really, I've said for a long time, it's really difficult being a pedestrian here. It's not safe. There's not a lot of crosswalks. There's not a lot of sidewalks. That's an issue, and it needs to be worked on countywide. He wants to commit to long-term funding. He wants to work with other cities, I assume, like maybe St. Pete, Temple Terrace. He wants us to be a leader instead of catching up with other cities. He wants us to be a leader. And he wants to start right away. He doesn't want to wait. He says we're already 30 years behind as far as transportation goes. So take that for what it is. For the school board, this is nonpartisan, so everybody can vote, and this is for county-wide. We have quite a few candidates. Again, I already had my candidate chosen, so I didn't really bother looking into the other ones. I'm going with Noreen Copeland Miller. I believe that she, has leadership experience, but also her mind is in the right place as far as equity. She really believes in an equitable experience for all students, regardless of socioeconomic class and race, and making the best usage of the funds in school. So I think she's going to be a real advocate for the most disenfranchised student, and we really need that in Hillsborough County because we have a lot of that. We have a lot of poverty here, and that needs to be worked on. As far as the judges go, I'm not the best person to talk about that because I don't know much about them. And I think that's a huge problem, and I need to work on that. And I think that's a problem a lot of us have. We just don't know what we're electing when it comes to that. So for that one, I'm just going to say do your own research about who the judges appear. See what kind of vibe you can get from their webpage, their Facebook page, their supporters, whatever you can find. I still have to do a little more research on that one to really decide where my heart's going to be on that. But again, these are just my opinions based on my sample ballot, and I encourage all of you before August 30th to please download a sample ballot and at least do some research. The research is easy, really, with the internet age. Just do a Google search on them, check their websites and their Facebooks, and then also check to see if there's any news articles related to them. Have they been involved in the community? Are there videos of them talking? Have they said the things that match what you want to hear? If they're a previously elected official like Kevin Beckner or Alan Grayson, have they actually lived up in their current positions to do what they promise that they're going to do in their next position? Those are things that you can do. Don't just go to their website, because their website's only going to point out the good things. Check out to see who's endorsing them, though. Most of them had endorsements on their website. So see who's endorsing them. Are the people who are endorsing them, are they people you trust? Are they people who have done good for their community, or have they not done so good? That doesn't necessarily mean they're a good or bad politician, but it gives you kind of an idea. And of course, I'm available to engage in any conversation about any of these candidates or the voting process. Again, I'm not an expert, just a big advocate and firm believer in it, so feel free to reach out to me on Facebook or through here or wherever else, and we can talk. All right, thanks. Happy voting.